Hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Capril. I got some bad news from the doctor the other day. Yeah, it's not that bad, but I've been battling high blood sugar pretty much most of my life. I'm still in that pre-diabetic range. I take a prescription some of you may take called metformin. Kind of keeps it in check. Doesn't let it get too high. Um, but he's telling me all these ways to cut sugar, and so the most recent one was you really ought to take the cream out of your coffee. Really? So now I'm starting to use whipping cream. Before it's whipped. Just which actually tastes the same. It's a little greasy, seems like when it comes in, but in any event, this could be the last cup of coffee that I have this way, and then after this, I got to go another way. Okay, crazy month in the news. Now, it's funny though because there's so much, that old adage about history repeating itself, and so much of what we've experienced here the last 5 or 6 years just reminds me of the 70s. Now, in the 60s. Now, I was born in 1963, so this is just stuff I'm reading. But, as you consider, as of today at least, Biden's not going to seek reelection, which is kind of crazy because they already did all the primaries. It's to me, it's kind of, I don't like it when, you go through the process and then you're like, oh, I can't win, and then you bail. I don't know. That's okay. The parties can do whatever the parties want to do. The Constitution says nothing about the various parties. But, if you recall, and again, this may be before your time, so you have to take me at my word, but Lyndon Johnson decided not to seek reelection. And as a result, you had a lot of turmoil within the Democrat Party. And sadly, there was a successful assassination attempt on Robert Kennedy, which is even stranger now because his son is running for president. Tried to do it as a Democrat and now is doing it as an independent. So a lot of chaotic things that are going to go on here. Trump's on the comeback trail, kind of like the way Nixon was on the comeback trail. So there's just all these things that, it just seems like we're reliving our times. All right. I don't care about any of that. That's really, I don't want to get into the political aspects of things. What I do want to talk about, though, is some of the agenda items that the next president is going to have to address no matter who it is. And frankly, I don't know if they'll address it any differently depending on who wins. As of now, it looks like Harris might get the nomination for the Democrats. Who knows? But the first one that's going to have to be dealt with is the solvency of Social Security. So you may have heard that if we don't make changes, that I think it's the year 2032, everybody's Social Security check will be reduced by 25%. And the reason for that is because there'll be no more surplus. So as you probably know, the working people put money in the system and retirees take it out. There's no special bank account with your name or anything like that. It's just it's money in, money out. It is truly, I'm sorry, a pyramid scheme. People at the bottom put money in, people at the top take it out. People at the top used to be at the bottom. So, and it used to really be a pyramid. It used to be, 42 to 1. Now it's less than 3 to 1. So they're going to have to fix that. And there's a number of ways that they could fix it. One way is raise the payroll tax so that more money goes in. Okay, I wouldn't be shocked if no matter who's in charge proposes that. One way to fix it would be to increase the normal retirement age. It used to be 65. Now it is 67. And you could even make the minimum retirement age higher. So instead of it being 62, it's, 64, 65. Or instead of it being 62 and you get 70% of what you would normally get, you could give them 50%. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can tinker with it in order to fix it. Now, I personally feel the way to fix it, and it does require a lot of courage and could probably only happen with a second-term president, which is interesting because we may get one. And the reason I say that is because there's going to be political fallout from this, regardless of whether or not it's the right thing to do. But if you had a second-term president who had both the House and Senate, then you might be able to pull off a real revision of the system. Because I think that if we could roll the clock back, or knowing what we know now, and say, okay, let's create a retirement system for a country. Well, the first question you actually should ask is, do we need to do that? Is that really the role of government? Now, we can go on and on about that. I would argue it's not, but hey, the thing's been around, so fine. Okay? So the next question would be, well, how would you do it? And I don't think the pyramid scheme is the way to work because it's so based on demographics. You have to have a lot of people at the bottom fueling the ones at the top. Now, back in the day when people didn't live as long and when you had large families as kind of the norm, it worked. That's not the case anymore. And some countries have sought to fix this problem through massive amounts of immigration. But that has presented its own set of problems. For me, the solution would be separate accounts. So if you're going to force me to save for retirement, which saving for retirement is a good thing, I just don't feel it should be forced. But if you're going to do that, then you should allow me to put the money in the system, have it be a separate account in my name, and let me decide how to invest it. And I'm going to tell you something. If we did it that way, the returns would be a heck of a lot higher and people would have a lot more money. Now, you'd have to phase this in because you've got all these baby boomers receiving money. So it would have to be like a two-tier system that over time would be replaced as the baby boomers die off. But that's how I would handle it. Do I think that's how Washington will handle it? Absolutely not. No, they love the control that the current system provides. But that's going to have to be dealt with, okay? It doesn't matter who the next president is, that's going to have to be dealt with. Yes, the border situation has to be dealt with. You can come up with your own theories. I have one. My thought was, the idea was, well, you know, if we allow them to seek asylum here and do catch and release, that would change the demographics of Texas, and that could ultimately have political implications. That is my belief. And the reason I say that is because you don't have to go too far back, and you can hear politicians from both parties emphasizing the need for limiting illegal immigration. I think back in the day, the reason that the Democrat Party was very much against illegal immigration was because they saw it as a threat to union jobs. And it is. For whatever reason now, that seems to be less of a concern. The Republicans, some will say they want it. On the other hand, a lot of their donors benefit from the cheap labor. I think, listen, if you don't have a nation with borders, you don't have a nation. So I like the idea. If you have to build a wall, fine, just have many doors in that wall. But that's going to have to be an issue that's going to be addressed as well. At the end of the day, life will go on. The economy will continue to grow over time. We will have our setbacks. There will be unexpected news. It's just life. There will be wars, probably fought elsewhere, but they will have their impact here. That's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. So I want to try to encourage you, again, as I always say, don't get absorbed with watching cable news. It won't change. As I always say, read your news. We only need to read it once, but we don't want emotion to fuel it all. All right. So just some little insights given this crazy week that we had. If you need to talk, don't hesitate to reach out. You know that you can always book a call with me by going to bookachatwithdan.com. Take care.